Thank you for CCTS for having our group over to talk to you a little bit about what we have been doing this past year and what you can expect from us next year. So we're going to talk to you, like I said, about what we've been doing and what we'll be doing, about some of our new staff that have come on board, and then what our initiatives will be through the next couple of years. So you have kept us busy. I mean, it's a job security for us. We have 3,700 active IRB protocols in our database right now. Last year, you submitted 1,350 new IRB protocols to be reviewed. That doesn't include the 200 not human subjects research evaluations that we did in the past 6 months. I say the 6 months because Pam actually put in a Qualtrics form to make it a lot easier for you to submit. If you're not sure whether you need IRB review or not, then you submit it and we look at it and give you an evaluation. So we're busy. We manage 6 committees, 4 medical IRBs and 1 non-medical, and then when the Radioactive Drug Research Committee has tasks or protocols to review, then we manage that committee as well. There were some 12,000 protocol-related reviews. That's including all the changes that you made to your protocols, unanticipated problems, continuation reviews, and so forth. All in all, we staffed 74 IRB meetings. The medical committees each meet every 3 weeks, and the non-medical committee meets once a month. The education group mostly did 71 on-campus presentations to keep you up to date with what is going on with the Common Rule and what's going on with the ERB and Reliance and so forth. Belinda's group in education recorded and maintained 4,300 human subjects protection training, and that's up from probably mid-3,500, something like that last year, and so that's an indication of the increasing protocols. We have new staff to train. New staff in our office. We have Daniel Ehrlich. I don't know, Daniel, is Daniel here? No, okay. Well, Daniel is going to be joining, he is joining our non-medical IRB review team, and he's going to be doing quality assurance and improvement for that group. We haven't done very many before because we haven't had enough staff, but he's going to be starting that. We have Jake Little. He's our instructional design person. Is he not here either? Great representation, Laura. Okay. Well, anyway, Jake's on board because we're trying to get a little more inventive, use new technologies, and get the training a little more interesting because it is fairly dry. So anything that we can do to help Terry Malone is laughing over there. But anyway, anything that we can do to make that a little more, I don't know, interaction, those sort of things. So he's just been with us a month, 2 months maybe, but he's working on some training. Then I have Desiree Penn, and she keeps us on straight and narrow because she manages our budget. So, all right. So the initiatives for 2020 is there's a new rule for single IRB, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it because Jessica is going to cover that piece in her talk. The quality assurance and improvement initiatives, that'll be Kasandra and Pam are going to talk you through that. We have a couple of new initiatives there. The big one for us right now is Marberry Accreditation. We have, this is it's been 5 years since we were reaccredited, and so we went in again last year in the fall. And site visitors will be here next week for 2 days. Some of you I know are being interviewed. Who here has been called? Yeah, right. So good luck with that. No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna do great. I mean, this is an abbreviated visit. Normally there are 4 days, 4 people. This year, 2 people for 2 days, and so it's, have faith. All right, and then our office have been tasked with rolling out tracking responsible conduct research. Okay, it can have implications for human subjects research, but not necessarily. So For those of you who are not familiar with the ACAR reaccreditation, in the fall we submitted an application that consisted of 1,700 pages. Okay, it's you submit that and they evaluate it and see if you're ready. That's step one, to see if you're ready for step two. We had one comment on that whole application, and that was that if there's negative press about the human subjects program, then we need to report it to them. And that was the one sentence that we had to add, so we did pretty well. So what, now that they're coming to campus, what do? They are interviewing 60 people. Okay, so 4 or 5 of you are here, and then they will interview people from the whole Human Subjects Research Program, which means the Investigational Drug Service. It means OSPO negotiates the contracts that have to match the informed consent in our protocols, so that we don't say in our informed consent forms that the sponsor is going to cover injury that you may have on a research protocol, and the contract says no, we're not. That can't happen. So they make sure that we have collaborations there. They interview legal counsel, intellectual property, the VPR. It's across the whole organization. And then of course the RB and the researchers. So just to show you how, I'm not expecting you to look at all this text, but for instance, for the organization, the very key thing that they look at first is, do we have a comprehensive human subjects protection program, which we do. And then they want to make sure that we have policies and procedures to back that program up, and we do. And then they want to make sure that we delegate that responsibility to somebody with enough clout to oversee it, which is the institutional official, and for us that's the Vice President for Research, Lisa Cassis. And then for the Human Subjects Research Protection Program, we should be independent. There shouldn't be anybody out there telling the RB what to do. Right, and we have that. We have that in our standard operating procedures and in a comprehensive plan. So, as I mentioned, the Responsible Conduct Research Initiative is, we've had some unfortunate events at the University of Kentucky as far as research misconduct. And so the universities realized that we don't have an overall program that's strong enough, and we don't make sure that people have a baseline knowledge of what is research ethics, what's responsible research ethics in all areas, not just human subjects. So ORI now has created a website that spells out what responsible conduct research is. It's got a lot of resources, and we also have a research misconduct site. So what you're going to see here sometime in March is when you go to the ORI website, you won't just see human subjects, you will see an RCR piece and a research misconduct. There will be links in there so that you can go in between all 3 areas, but we are responsible for that. So what's going to happen is that the CITI training that you've taken with human subjects research is not going to be enough to cover the RCR. So there will be 6 modules that are going to be mandatory for all faculty, staff, graduate students that are engaged in research. All right, and they are modules like reproducibility, peer review, research misconduct, conflict of interest. Because what we hear in some of these cases that we have is that I was training somewhere else, or that's not part of this scientific community. We need a baseline. The university needs a baseline of training. The university is also subscribed to an electronic lab notebook. It's lab archives, and it's going to be rolling out slowly by our college, and our College of Medicine has so graciously volunteered. So that will be coming sometime in late March and April. So you put your research data in there, so that if there ever is a question, you have the data right there. Okay. Then there's a whistleblower site on the research misconduct page. It's got a hotline number that's anonymous, so if you feel like there are some research misconduct issues, you can report it there. You can also use a form if you're not comfortable talking on the phone, so that, because there is some, through the external report of the university, there should be some way that it should be comfortable reporting incidents of, that you think may or may not be a research ethics issue, but you should be able to report it and have somebody to talk to about it. As part of this RCR2, the Vice President for Research has a Lunch and Learn series where the offices that are under the Vice President are given presentations, and it's on Wednesdays from 12 to 1, and it's all the senators and all the units that are under the Vice President gives an overview of what they have to offer. Okay. So with that, I'll say thank you, and I will introduce Pam Stafford, who's the Associate Director. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about QA and QI initiatives. Thank you.
Okay, yes, hello. I am going to talk to you about one of the newer QA/QI initiatives that we have here at UK, and they are called wellness checks. So what they are, it is an initiative that we started in later 2018. It was finally fully staffed and rolled out early 2019, around early spring, roughly. The QA/QA team conducts on-site visit with the PI and key study personnel approximately 6 months after approval. So what it is, it's sort of an early check-in, which is why we have called them wellness checks. They typically last anywhere from 1 to 4 hours. It can vary depending on the complexity of the protocol, where the PI and study team are in the enrollment process, how many people are on the study team that would like to meet with us. We typically meet with the PI, but the PI is welcome to invite anyone on the study team to be present as well. The purpose is really, some of you may be more familiar with this term, called post-approval monitoring. And that's what this is. So it's intended to do a check-in with the team, like how are things going? How can we help you? Is there anything we can assist with? We are looking to help identify areas of concern early in the process. Again, this is roughly 6 months in after IRB approval. Therefore, it's about halfway before your first annual report, be that either a continuation review or the new, shorter, abbreviated annual administrative review, which is called AAR. So how we choose these, I want to be really clear, this is not a directed visit by the IRB. This is not the IRB saying, we have concerns about so-and-so QA team, please go out and meet with them. This is a very different process. This is any protocol that has been approved by the IRB, by either the full convened board or even the expedited protocols. So how we select these is typically what's called in the field as a risk-based approach. We do look at those, look back at the agenda and see what has been approved in the last 6 months. We then look at those that have greater than minimal risk level indicated, so risk level 2 or higher. Anything that might involve a vulnerable population, any investigator-initiated or PII studies, and any device studies. Those are ones that we're going to look at the most. Again, a risk-based approach, but that is not all that we will visit. We also can visit students who may have struggled a little bit getting their applications in or working through the process, who may need additional assistance beyond just a faculty advisor. We'll visit with them. Or we can also have PIs request this, and we have had some do that. Faculty advisors or any other interested party, perhaps a department chair who thinks that they would like this student to get additional assistance along the way. So sort of an overview on how they went in 2019. The QA/QI team, which again, as Helen indicated, is myself and Kasandra, and usually one other person, depending on if it's a medical review or a non-medical review. We'll take in another staff member from the office, on occasion IRB member if need be. We were able to conduct 20 of them between April and December of last year. And we were actually able to hit an even split. So 10 of those were medical review protocols, and the other 10 were the non-medical or social behavioral educational side. Initially, when we first rolled this out, we were conducting roughly 1 visit a month. By the end of the year, we had averaged roughly 1 a week, and that is the trend that we plan to continue. So approximately 1 visit a week, with half of those every month being medical and half of them ideally being non-medical. So not to get too much into the nitty-gritty, but some people are kind of curious, well, what are you finding, or what kind of errors or issues are you identifying? And we kind of look at it as this is more an assistant. We're not out there to find something. We're not going in there to say, okay, what can we catch them on? We're like, okay, these are the things you might want to focus on. This is what we've noticed. First and foremost, we typically are identifying issues with informed consent. So not just the form itself, but sometimes also the process. Some examples there, perhaps incomplete copies retained in the study records, tearing off the consent form, giving it to the participant, retaining only the signature form, not using a stamped or correct version. Those are some of the examples of errors or issues that we have identified. Second to that would be just some general inconsistencies. Examples would be discrepancies between what is in EIRB or the approved application versus what they're actually doing, the study team is doing in the field. And again, we understand that there may be discrepancies, but we're there to help you identify them and how you can essentially, if you need to make a modification request, to get things matching up. Incomplete records would be another of the top 4. The way we can summarize that would be missing information on perhaps data collection instruments, survey instruments, or missing IRB records from a reg binder. Perhaps not all of the approval letters are there. There aren't tracking of the actual IRB submissions. Just sort of overall incomplete across the board. And then the last would be probably study personnel issues, which is probably the least common, but we do identify it. Could be individuals working on the protocol who weren't actually approved by the IRB to do so, or there may be individuals who have obtained informed consent from participants who were not authorized to do so as according to the IRB protocol. So I know this sounds a little bit intimidating, but we also, we're new in this initiative, so we want feedback too. And it helps us learn and improve the program so that we can then in turn help researchers more. What they are telling us is we do have a feedback form, and we are sending that out on a quarterly basis. So we don't do a visit and then immediately send the feedback, because then we would pretty much possibly know who it was providing the feedback. It truly is anonymous. So at the end of every quarter, we send out a link to a red cap survey to everyone who had a wellness check during that time period, and then they reply to us. It is actually completely voluntary. We don't know whether they do or who does reply. Response rate to date is actually better than we had initially anticipated. Of those 20, 8 people, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a 40% response rate, so we're pleased, but 8 people have responded. Typically, they are very appreciative of, and they think that the process is helpful. And hopefully, I'm not sure how well you can read this in the back. I've tried to work on the fonts, but overall, of those 8, the level of anxiety is a little bit lower than we would have thought. People tend to be nervous, but then they actually say it wasn't that bad. So this is when we first contact them on a scale of 1 to 5, not quite midpoint, but almost. They indicate that the purpose was clearly described. So when we do send out the initial invites, how well did we describe the why we are coming and what we intend to do? They felt that we treated them with respect, and we're actually pretty pleased about that one. So again, it's a scale of 1 to 5. All 8 respondents topped out with that one. So they felt that they were respected during the process. Similarly, that they had adequate time, so we don't do all of the talking during these visits. We also offer the opportunity to ask us questions about this protocol, about protocols in general, and they felt that we gave them very adequate time to do so. We don't just help identify issues, we also look for the good things. This is a facilitative process back and forth, so we can learn from it as well, and we take good examples from researchers. And so we do try to make a point when we notice something that's done really well, or is a good example, we point that out. And they felt that, yes, they recognized that. Concerns, if there are concerns, we don't say, oh, well, you messed this up. There is a way to present and discuss this material. And so they did feel that the concerns were expressed without judgment. And again, we're pretty pleased with that result because all 8 respondents topped out and said yes. It was very fairly presented. Appropriate solutions, so we don't just identify something, we also try to help suggest how it can be fixed or rectified moving forward. And again, they felt that we do that well. The visit was efficient. We do try to not waste anybody's time. We know that investigators are extremely busy, and we try to do what we can to get in, get out, and as effectively as possible. How positive the PI felt at the end of the visit. Again, we're pretty happy with that. So nobody is necessarily reporting feeling beat down or that it was a horrible process, that we're absolutely evil. It went well, and they felt good about it after they left, or after we left, excuse me. The written report, so we do have the visit, we provide a summary after that to the PI in writing, and again, they felt that the report was fair and accurate and did reflect what we had been discussed and discovered during the process. And then finally, a little bit on the lower end, but it's still not too bad, that they do feel that the wellness checks in general are helpful, and that is something that we're happy to see because we plan to continue to do these, and we want to try to improve them however we can. So we already have a little bit of a high mark, but we're going to hopefully continue that trend to get more feedback. And that actually is all I have. So I will now hand it over to my other QA/QI partner, Kasandra Lambert.
So I just wanted to give you a little update about this outreach initiative that ORI developed. We're actually on our 1-year anniversary of its inception, so that's really exciting for me to get to talk about this, give you a status update, and encourage those of you that haven't been able to attend or maybe didn't know what it was to do so. So office hours, like I said, was started approximately a year ago. February 22nd of last year was our first session. And it's really a way to get out into the campus community, both on the main campus side and on the medical center side, and to meet investigators, students, PIs, faculty members, where they are. ORI is housed in Kincaid Hall, and as much as we would love to have you come visit, please, anytime, 3rd and 4th floor. We understand that it's not the most hospitable building or welcoming, and as someone who walks up 4 flights of stairs over and over every day, I understand if you don't want to do that. So we wanted to meet you in the middle and really provide an avenue where you can meet with ORI staff in an open forum, and sort of walk in, get your question answered, walk out, and hopefully feel more confident and less frustrated with the IRB submission process. We're all about customer service, and we really want to facilitate your research, and we're here as a tool. And so over the 14 sessions that we had in the last year, we had 80 total attendees. 3 of those were repeat attendees, so 3 people really liked it and came back to see us. So that's exciting, but we're hoping those numbers continue to grow, and that this year we're offering more sessions twice a month, except during the holiday time, because that's a really busy time. And hopefully you'll see a date that works for you. It's sort of spread out across who takes advantage of the office hours. We really want to target the undergraduate students this year. For those that are doing research, it can be really intimidating, and hopefully they're working with a faculty advisor, but we want to be that additional resource for them as well. So you can see it's nearly evenly split between faculty, staff, and graduate students. So that's exciting for us that people all across research are taking advantage of the office hours. Trends and topics. We're open to new topics, though. Don't think that your question has to fit in one of these. We definitely want to expand what's being asked. But a lot of times you don't know how to submit what sort of, should it be expedited or exempt? And that can be really tricky to figure out, so we want to help you figure out what the most appropriate submission type would be. We always have Jessica or someone else that can answer Reliance questions or off-site considerations, or if she's not there, we'll definitely put you in touch with her as a follow-up to get those questions answered. Things about recruitment, no cold calling, but how can you get to the population that you're interested in. EIRB is still a sticking point for some people. It looks really overwhelming, but once you start working through the submission, we're happy to do that with you as well. It's usually the feedback is that, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and that's our goal. And then also some questions about informed consent, things like banking, future use, or whether a waiver would be appropriate. A lot of numbers up here. Focus on those 100%. So much like the quality improvement visits, we have a brief red cap form. that I send out, again, nearly quarterly to those that have attended. When you come to office hours, we do ask that you sign in just for, much like CCTS, our tracking purposes. We want to know who's using the resource and how we can get to those who aren't. So of those that answered, 23 people answered. A lot of people feel like they were, 100% of people feel like they were able to get their question answered, which is really important to us. We want to be able to have those answers for you if you trek to wherever we are across campus. You're able to get assistance quickly. In those sessions, attendance has ranged from 0 in December, I'm blaming Christmas, and up to, the highest we've had were 12 attendees in a 1-hour session, but we always have 3 to 4 staff members, and sometimes you're lucky enough to have an IRB chair there to answer your questions very definitively, which is excellent support and I think a great opportunity to get really solidified answers and know that you're doing something that's going to be approved. So even when we've had upwards of 12 people, the respondents still feel like they were able to get assistance quickly, which is important. We want to make sure we have enough staff there so that you're not sitting and waiting. But we do have snacks, so there's always a treat waiting in case you do have to wait in line. Most people feel pretty confident after attending office hours with their IRB submission. That's also important to us. The point of focus on the next slide, or in the next column, is about greater understanding of federal regulations and local policies. After office hours, we do send a follow-up email to summarize the discussion. Whichever ORI staff member you ended up meeting with, we'll send that to you. And so that might be a point of focus to really emphasize why we're guiding you a particular way, because sometimes we might tell you to do something and you might be happy to do it, but you don't know why. So that's something we definitely want to try to document in those emails, that we're not just making it up, that there is a regulation or a UK local policy driving that recommendation. And that everyone feels like the guidance was useful, which was my greatest fear. I don't want you to come to office hours, get guidance, submit your IRB application, and then get different feedback from the person screening it or reviewing it. So that number is really important to me. Some of the feedback we received didn't get negative feedback, so either people are keeping it to themselves or don't have any. I'm open to either option. The feedback surveys are totally anonymous. Again, we don't know who's responded, who hasn't. So if you do have constructive criticism, that's always welcome too. Anything we can do to make office hours serve the campus community better. And then you're in luck. If you haven't been able to attend office hours, we have one tomorrow at 11 a.m. I may have done that on purpose in the JSB, the new science building. So not too far from the medical campus. Also a really lovely space. Maybe it won't be raining tomorrow. Lots of windows in those rooms. And that's in room 361M. So if you do have IRB questions or just want to stop by and see what it's really like when it's happening, I would encourage you to do so. We have some other sessions in March, 2 in March and 2 in April posted across campus. And if you feel like there's a space missing, so for example, we weren't initially in the pharmacy building, but we had a lot of individuals from pharmacy coming to office hours, and they really wanted it to be in their building, which I understand. I'm happy to look at getting into other buildings too if you feel like there's one that's not represented and you need it to be closer to you. Please let me know. And if you didn't write those dates down, that's okay. If you go to the ORI website, you can find the office hours, the familiar graphic, by clicking on ORI workshops and conferences, and that will tell you the dates. And they're usually posted pretty far in advance. And if you're on our listserv, you do get reminders about those. If you're not on our listserv, that's something that's available on the website too, or if you email somebody on the ORI staff, we can definitely get you added, get you on those announcements. If you're super busy, we do them around lunch hours because it just tends to be the easiest time for people to get away. If none of those dates or times work for you, or you have a more urgent request, or just really want to meet one-on-one, maybe you have 10 questions instead of 1 question, that's totally fine. We also have a request to consult. A lot of people have ORI contacts that they're familiar with and like to work with, and please, by all means, call us, email us, whoever you want to, that's fine. We will, if we're not the person, we'll get you in contact with the individual managing the protocol or answer your question. But if you're really at a point where you don't know who to contact or who would manage the particular question that you have, you can always request a consult. So those come to me, and I get with the appropriate staff to reach out to you to schedule an in-person appointment at Kincaid Hall, or we'll come to you in your office or elsewhere on campus, or something by the phone. We're getting bigger into Zoom, so that's also an option too. We're finally making it there, it's exciting. But that's all on the front page of the ORI website right now. So if you leave here and you decide you're interested, it'll be available. And those are the things. And that's my contact information, also available on our website. But if you have any questions, we'll take them at the end, and I'm going to give Jessica all the time.
Okay, thank you all for coming. And I know you've had chili and soup and you're tired, it's after lunch, but I personally feel like they've saved the best topic to last. You know, single IRB reliance is the next hot topic. It's probably soon to be the bane of some people's existence. But we're going to learn a little bit more about it today and talk about some of the new requirements and the updates that have happened since last year. And if you haven't met me before, my name is Jessica Williams. I'm the Reliance Manager in the Office of Research Integrity. If you've done any collaborative research or you've worked with another institution, you've probably talked with me before. And if not, then I'm always happy to talk with you about any questions you might have. So what's new this year? So effective January 20th of 2020, the last portion of the revised Common Rule came into effect. So that is the cooperative research provision. And it states that all domestic cooperative research that's conducted or supported by a federal department or agency and involves more than one site must rely on a single IRB, okay? The cooperative research provision, so by definition and per the Common Rule, cooperative research is research that involves more than one institution, okay? Each institution is going to be responsible for safeguarding the rights and welfare of human subjects to comply with this policy. So if you've got federally funded research by any of the 16, any of the federal departments or agencies that are funding your project, and you've got more than one institution, then more than likely you'll need single IRB review. Now just know there's exceptions to every rule, so there are going to be exceptions to this. As far as the cooperative research provision, some of the main exceptions are if you've got tribal or certain state laws that may require local IRB review for special populations. And if one of your federal departments or agencies that's supporting the project says, we really think that it's not appropriate for single IRB for this particular research context, then it could be considered exempt from the single IRB. So, I like to also give some options. So, okay, what if you don't have to have single IRB? It's not mandated, but you say, I may want to try that. I want to request to rely on another IRB. So you still have options. You can do business as usual. If your project does not fall under that mandate, you can submit to the local UK IRB. You can also request to enter into some other type of joint review arrangement or make similar arrangements for avoiding duplication of effort, which is what the single IRB initiative was made for, right? The important thing here is to always include the IRB office, the IRB and ORI staff because there are going to be some situations where the options may not work for the institutions involved. So we just want to be involved in that process and just let us know, you know, if you want to request a rely or request a joint arrangement of some sort. So we've talked about the cooperative research provision, which was in effect as of January 20th of 2020. It's also important to remember that there is the NIH single IRB policy for multi-site research. Okay, so we've got two different mandates here. There's the mandate that's been in effect for a couple of years now. This policy is more narrow in scope. So single IRB, the NIH policy is actually for research that is funded by NIH, so not, you know, all of the other agencies are not necessarily included here. It's for non-exempt human subject research, and each site needs to be conducting the same research procedures, not just cooperative or collaborative like the cooperative research provision. So you've got NIH versus the revised common rule. Even though they're both getting at the same single IRB initiative, they're a little bit different. So here I kind of laid out some of the differences and the similarities. So they're different in applicability, funding requirements. The effective dates are obviously different. And that's sort of important if you think about when your research was funded. So some research, NIH research was funded before these dates, and so then they would not apply. They would also be exempt from that. And one commonality between both of these mandates is that they both apply to domestic non-exempt research. So if you're doing research and you're collaborating with somebody in Brazil, you're going to be exempt from from both rules, actually. And if you're doing exempt research, that wouldn't fall under this, okay? So it's no secret that single IRB has been, you know, the use of it has been increasing over the past few years. If you look at the red bars, that's just for the IRB authorization agreements. So from 2017 to 2018 to sort of current, where we are between 2019 and 20, there was a 23% increase from fiscal year 17-18 to 18-19. And then if we stay on track, then we're projected to have another 46% increase in number alone of IRB authorization agreements from 2018-19 to 2019-20. So it is increasing, and with the number of Reliance agreements, right, comes added workload, added time and effort. So to sort of address this and handle it, we have now 1.5 Reliance staff in the office that are dedicated to the single IRB initiative, which is, it's needed and very much appreciated. So submitting a single IRB protocol at UK, the first step is to, if you go on our website, our Reliance website, it's on the ORI website, and it's under single IRB Reliance. You'll find our Reliance request form. It's a PDF fillable form, very easy to fill out. You can email it to irbreliance@uky.edu, and then you'll receive sort of a determination via email as to whether your Reliance request is granted, or if UK would prefer for you to submit locally for whatever reason. Step 3 is you'll submit an abbreviated application. So as of October 1st, 2019, we are asking for a Reliance abbreviated application anytime you want to seed a protocol, seed a research to an external IRB. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. And then after the abbreviated application is submitted, after all of the ancillary reviews are complete, after the Reliance agreement is finalized between us and the reviewing IRB, you'll receive what we call a Reliance determination letter. And that's sort of like a site activation letter. It basically says, okay, you're good to go here, but you need to wait on your reviewing IRB to approve the protocol, okay? So now we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of, why we're asking you to do this. It's always good to know the why. That's what I've learned. So even though the IRB is external to UK, up to 2019, we really haven't had a whole lot of monitoring associated with protocols that were seeded out to an external IRB. What we're realizing as we talk to other institutions is we still need to know what's going on at UK. So whether it's knowing that the appropriate personnel are on the protocol, that they have HSP training, whether it's knowing the conflict of interest, that there's no existing conflict of interest among the PI or any of the study staff. There are local unanticipated problems. These are things that we're really tracking. And part of this comes from what Helen mentioned, which is our AHRP accreditation. We have a new standard, I-9, and in that standard, UK is expected to have written policies and procedures for any time that we are sharing oversight with another institution. So we're expected to have these written policies and procedures for the safety and welfare of research subjects, because that's why we do what we do. So that's one of the driving factors as to why we really need to know some of these local things that are going on, even though UK is not the IRB of record. Investigator responsibilities is an interesting subject for whether you're relying or if UK is the reviewing IRB and UK PI is the lead PI. So first we'll go with when UK is the relying on an external IRB and the UK PI would be the relying PI. So some of the responsibilities are things like I said, conflict of interest, human subject protection training. We need to know if there are any local unanticipated problems involving risks to subjects or others, because if we get questioned by that reviewing IRB, and we don't have any record of your protocol, it doesn't show that we have a good oversight program, a good human research protection program, and so that's kind of what we're getting at here. So when UK is the single IRB or the reviewing IRB, and the UK PI is the lead PI for all sites, that list grows exponentially. Because not only is that UK PI responsible for what's going on here at UK, and what they would normally do if you have a research protocol, you've got a list of PI responsibilities, you multiply that by however many sites you have. And that PI is responsible for not only all of the modification requests and the protocol violations and the continuation reviews, unanticipated problems, everything that happens at our site, but also for all of the other sites. So there is an element of, we don't want to discourage anybody from, choosing to be a lead PI at UK, but we also want everybody to go in knowing the responsibilities. And so we have on our Reliance webpage on ORI, we actually have we have detailed lists of each, of whether you're relying at UK or if you're the lead PI and UK is the reviewing IRB. And we're happy to talk to you about that as well. Joe and I had a conversation with somebody earlier about it, and so, it really, I think that some of this is just, we need to increase our education with Reliance and single IRB. It's new, and it's just something that we need to keep getting out there and sharing with people. Another important thing to note is that there are potential costs with single IRB. So whether UK is relying or reviewing, there may be a one-time fee that you will pay. There may be recurring costs. Some of this is going to depend on the funding mechanism. It could also depend on the length of the study. So if it's a 5-year study, there may be some recurring costs per year. And it could also depend on the level of oversight required. If we're the reviewing IRB and we're overseeing 10 other sites, that there could be additional fees there. And coming soon, we are working on developing with our instructional designer a new single IRB online training. We're hoping to have that up in the next couple weeks. It's not quite ready yet, but it's got a module with some 2 videos, video for when UK is relying, and a video for when UK is the reviewing IRB. It talks about some of those responsibilities. And there's also scenarios that we've built in, quizzes, well, 1 quiz, not quizzes. And it's maybe 40 minutes, maybe a 40-minute. So you can do it in less than an hour. It's completely voluntary at this time. But I do think that it would be really good to sort of become aware of, single IRB model as a whole, and then as it applies to you at UK. And then, as always, if you have questions, you can talk to the Reliance Dream Team, Joe Brown, raise your hand, Joe Brown and myself, and if we're not here, then Helene Lake-Bullock. So we're always happy to meet with you. You can call us on the phone, Skype, Zoom. We'll do whatever. Come over and see us in Kincaid.